Greetings. I greet you all in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. Makadi, Selabanani, Moni, Bonjour, Nihama, Hola, Salamu Alaikum. Part 3, The Madness of Crowds. There's a book called The Madness of Crowds, and anyone doing any investing in shares, property, or Bitcoin would benefit tremendously by understanding the madness of crowds. This also, the same syndrome was also followed with the Dutch tulip mania, where people were buying tulip bulbs for hundreds of thousands of guilders. And the Florida land boom, where people sold land with 10% down, and then those people sold that land to somebody else for 10% down, then they sold that land for 10% down, and when there was a crash, then the chain, which had gone from A to B to C to D, reversed from D to C to B to A, and the original farmer had his land plus the deposit that he'd collected from the sale of the land. Zimbabwe had access to capital. This is a number of years ago, and they were told you could get 20 or 30% interest per month, and then they advertised and they were on television, and people gave testimonies of how they had been getting 30% for several months, how they'd doubled their money, how they were now rich, and they thanked Access for Capital so much. And it was just a Ponzi scheme. A Ponzi scheme is where the owner gets people to give him money. He promises them interest, but he pays the interest on the next wave of people who are giving him money, and he pays their interest with the next wave. Meanwhile, he's making millions and millions and millions of dollars. And then finally, he will wind up the scheme and take his money and run. That is a criminal act, by the way. Let's look at Bible psychology. This can be for anything. Stamps, it could be old paintings, it could be cars, old cars, it could be property, it could be gold, it could be shares. It's the same psychology. At first, the price rises slowly. Then as more people buy, the price starts to shoot up. As the price shoots up, speculators, the original speculators, gain huge profits of times 2, times 5, or even times 10. They tell their friends begin to speculate as well. The government, then investors, begin to speculate as well. The government then is on television claiming that the economy is going up, the economy is healthy, it's making a lot of money on tax, so it backs it up. Eventually, speculation passes from professional speculators to housewives, ditch diggers, and even cleaners. It might be gold, tulip bulbs, or property, or shares. Ordinary people sell their cars or houses to buy with 10% down. So this happened in the 2008-2009 crash. People were mortgaging their houses and then putting 10% down on 2 or 3 houses, and then trying to pay off those houses from rents. And when the price of houses crashed, then when the price crashed, the rents had to also crash. When the rents crashed, the people couldn't pay their mortgages. Then the banks came and demanded the houses. So they lost their original house and they lost all the houses after that. be warned on speculation. Eventually, it might be ordinary people sell their stuff, and through that they impoverish themselves. They think that 90% will be paid by the rocketing prices, and in some cases it's true. They are paid in the beginning. It happens. When they sell the item, they make a huge profit with no work. It becomes far more profitable to sell a business and to sell a house and to invest in the widget being a share or a property or an old car or an old painting. Because at the bank they get 1% interest, but buying a widget and reselling it, they can get 50% or even 100% or even 1,000% markup. People borrow money from banks and do a second or even third mortgage. At one point, everyone wants to buy this widget, but no one wants to sell because the prices are rocketing up. Why sell when the prices are going up? Bubble fever. This is called a mania, where people actually become mad. They become gripped by fantasy profits. Now, on paper, yes, they've made 100%, 200%, 1,000% profit. But in reality, it's only profit when they sell. But they're not willing to sell because they get 200% profit, they hold on to it, then in a week's time, it's 300% profit. They hold on, in a month's time, it's 500% profit. So they're not willing to sell. Remember, you only get a profit when you sell. So this becomes a fever. It becomes a mania. It becomes a psychological syndrome, a psychological sickness. People are not willing to sell, but everyone wants to buy. Newspapers begin to sell stories of the teenager who made $1 million from his pocket money, or a housewife who invested household money and got very rich from just a few $1,000s from the household budget, or a cleaner. This happened in the early 2000s. A cleaner. A lady made a lot of money by simply putting 10% of her salary into the same shares that her dentist boss was buying. And she eventually died, a very rich lady. And in her will, she asked that the money, the profits, the interest on her riches is used to pay for fees for university for poor people. So she's one of the few people who invested her money wisely. Suddenly, however, with these widgets, remember, you are holding something in your hand. It could be an archaeological item. It could be an old painting, an old car. It could be shares. It could be title deeds to property. But it's something, okay? Then the big boys, the guys, the big investors, they decide and they agree to sell. So they begin to sell. And when they begin to sell, the price goes down. And when the price goes down, people get gripped by fear and they start selling. When they start selling, the price goes down even more. When the price goes down even more, the banks start asking for their houses, which were mortgaged with first, second, and third mortgages. Then the banks grab these houses and sell them, and the price goes down even more. Suddenly, everyone is selling and no one is buying. Remember before? Everyone was holding on and buying, but nobody wanted to sell. Now it's the opposite. Everyone wants to sell, but nobody wants to buy. So the price of a house, let's say a house costs $100,000 to build. suddenly the price of that house goes to 50,000, 40,000 or 30,000. I've seen houses going for $1. But a house has an intrinsic value. So if you buy, once the price of the house goes down below the price it costs to build it, if you then buy, that house is bound to go back up to its original price that it costs to buy. So that's the thing about most speculation. There is a top of what's called the bell curve, okay, where the price is going up, 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 then it evens off, then suddenly begins to crash. Then at the bottom of the curve, there is a value to that painting or that old car. There is a certain value, or that stamp, or that foreign currency, or that gold. And then after that, people will start to buy again because the price of that thing is severely undervalued. But it is not the same with bitcoins and cryptocurrencies. Be warned. Then once there's been this crash, remember everyone has got this fever. They are buying, buying, buying. The price is going up, 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 up. Then they are buying, borrowing money from friends, from banks. One guy, the bank wouldn't lend him money, so what he did is he bought a car, and the bank lent him money to buy the car. Then he sold the car, and he got $20,000. Then he invested that $20,000. Now, originally, when that man is on paper got 100%, 200%, 300% profits, he feels like a genius. He feels like a god. He feels that there's something in him of greater value than everybody else. He's a creative genius. He's a superman. This is called hubris. And after hubris comes arte. Hubris in Greek is that intoxication with success. And then after that comes arte, disaster. So he tells his wife, I made $20,000 on my property. $100,000 on property. Remember, he's not selling it, he's just speculating. And he borrows more money to buy more property. He feels like a god. Everyone else is a fool, but he's got the secret of success, the key to success. Suddenly the price of that property or that gold or that stamp or that old painting crashes. And now what? His original house he sold. He borrowed money to buy more houses. Now what happens? He's defeated. He's suddenly a failure. He's suddenly a fool. Suddenly he's shamed. His neighbors who took his advice and also bought that widget, they now feel a fool. And they blame him. They're angry with him. Now he's the enemy of the whole community. Even his wife says, you lost our house. We had paid for that house. You've lost the house. Now we have to rent. Now we've got no money for our future. So in some cases, people commit suicide. In other cases, their wives divorce them because they suddenly think, I married a fool. I married an idiot. Their children lose respect for them. This is true of the bubble mentality about shares, property, old cars, stamps, old paintings, etc. From becoming a god, you are now crushed. You are a fool. Why didn't you see that you should have sold at the top of the bell curve? Why didn't you? But the big boys who have got used to this, they've made their money, they sold, and they are fabulously rich. And you are left penniless, broken financially, broken psychologically, broken emotionally, broken socially. You are now a broken man because you wanted to get rich without work. You want to get easy money by borrowing and selling. I'm sorry for you. I have compassion for you. Genuine compassion. We've all done it in measure, in some measure. We've all been captured by an imagination, and then we were made fools of. So we understand how you feel. Thank you very much. And don't forget to subscribe and thumbs up. Thank you very much. Goodbye.